What's going on, Vibers, and welcome to the Vibe with Kai podcast. It's your boy Kai, and today I'm speaking once again with my good friend, licensed mental health counselor and founder of Healthy Minds and More Counseling Services, Chelsie Maccarone. This is part three. This is part three of us answering questions. Well, not me answering questions, but the expert answering questions regarding things surrounding therapy, just questions that people are afraid to ask. And so I serve as a vessel, and I get hit with knowledge from the expert, Mrs. Chelsie Maccarone, and then we get all of this more information over to you. So that's what we do. Before we get to our guests, don't forget that if you're a fan of this podcast, you can get even more exclusive content on the Vibe with Kai Patreon, especially if you're into having insightful discussions surrounding mental health, good vibes, positive energy. Simply click the link in the description of this podcast and subscribe. It's only $1 per month. That's it. $12 a year. And you'll get a bunch of stuff. Exclusive access to mental health and wellness content that you won't get anywhere else. Plus a sneak peek behind the scenes look at my life. I post stuff on there I don't post anywhere else. It's my safe space. So go subscribe today. $1 per month. With that said, let's meet our guest today. Chelsie Maccarone became a licensed mental health counselor in 2016 and has worked with individuals who have had a variety of areas of improvement and growth, including but not limited to depression, anxiety, marital relationship concerns, parenting problems, low self-esteem, codependency, and so much more. Chelsie has, I sound like I'm introducing you for like Saturday Night Live or something like
Oh, I'm feeling like game show vibes over here.
You're right. And coming up, Chelsie has an eclectic therapy style that that she utilizes interventions, techniques, and theories that best suit her clients in a way that speaks their language. She tends to gravitate towards person-centered and solution-focused modalities. Got that right for the first time. She believes in
Woo-hoo.
holistic wellness and health, and has a warm approach to clients. She tends to view the therapeutic relationship as helping her clients guide and navigate their journey. We're going to be talking with this wonderful person. Say hi, Chelsie. Hello. Happy.
Hey,
What's today? Today's Wednesday. Happy Hump Day.
hump day.
Hump Day. Thank you
Oh
for sitting
man.
with me again. Are you sick and tired of me yet?
No, not at all. I actually really enjoy these. I kind of look forward to them.
Oh, I
I
paid
feel
her to
like a
say that.
small stalker. Like I'm like, hey, you want to do another one?
No,
Hey, you want to do another one?
no. I've had stalkers in my life, and I promise you, you are not one of them.
Oh,
Now, if you
okay, cool.
randomly show up at my front door, then we're gonna have a conversation because that has happened before. People
Ain't
have showed
nobody
up at
got
my
time
front
for
door.
that. I don't have time for
Apparently,
that.
people do. People have time, and they show up. That I've had two people show up at my front door, and I'm like, this is not okay.
No,
Not at
that's
all.
not okay.
No,
Let's talk
no.
about boundaries
Yes. Today's episode is all
and
about
impulse
boundaries.
control.
Yes, like do not show up at my front door, please.
Mm,
Goodness gracious. But we have a new slew of questions that I want to throw over your way. And my friends, if you have any specific questions that you would like to have asked, if you are afraid to ask a therapist or a mental health professional a question about therapy, anything related to what you're going through, feel free to send it over my way, and then I'll make sure I include it the next time that Chelsie and I speak, because I feel like this is just like an ongoing thing now. Like I like it. I'm a
yeah,
fan.
I do too. I feel like
Yeah.
we're really like reaching people who need
Yeah.
it or who are like scared or nervous or
Absolutely.
anxious. And
Yeah. Shoot it over
yeah,
our way, and I'll work in as many as I can, and let's get down to business, Mulan style. Let's get down to
on to
business.
business. Love
That
it.
shows what kind of mood I'm in today.
Mm,
I'm a hot mess today. Hot mess.
I'll join you.
Yeah, we're all in the Hot Mess Express. Okay, so our first question revolves around family therapy.
Mm.
The question is, how does family therapy work? Does the whole family go to therapy together?
Yeah, usually. If it's being done right. So I love it because I feel like every time I say it depends. So family therapy, every therapist, I guess, like works it a little bit differently, but the gist is, yeah, you kind of want to have everyone participate. There's usually an identified person, IP. Um, so it's different families are going to family therapy for different reasons, right? Are you going to family therapy because there's a separation of parents? Are you going to family therapy because a kid has acting out behaviors? Are you going to
Mhm.
family therapy because you guys experienced grief and loss? So Yeah, I think most people in the family would want to participate. Nuclear family. We're not bringing grandma and grandpa in,
Yeah, I was
but
gonna ask, like, how does that work? So is it like one of those things, like you're gonna bring in, like, how big of a family are we talking here? Are we bringing like mom, dad, son, daughter, grandma, grandpa, the weird uncle? Like, is everybody
yeah,
coming
I think it's
all
just
at the same
caregivers.
time?
I mean, it depends most of the time. Sweeping generalization, you're going to family
Hmm.
therapy because there's a minor that needs therapy. That's the IP,
Okay,
the
so the
identified
focus
person.
is so the focus, what you're saying is the focus is more on the child side of
Usually,
it. Okay.
usually.
Hmm.
Because think about it, like parents are like, I don't know what to do with this kid. Here, fix my kid. And then,
Mm,
or there's a divorce, something like that. And
right.
so yeah, so usually we'll meet with the whole family. Sometimes if it's like the IP is a child, we'll maybe meet with the parents individually a little bit before bringing the child in for the group. Um,
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, with family therapy, I think most of the time it's like psychoeducation for parenting and like
Mm,
how to support the IP and like the family systems dynamic and stuff like that.
hmm.
But yeah, usually it's the whole family, you know.
Do you find it difficult at all to like you as a therapist, is it difficult ever to have these kind of like conversations with the family? And the reason I ask is everybody like upfront and out they come out with like information that helps, or is it something that people are kind of hesitant and you have to kind of pull it out of them a little bit?
I think it just depends like on the type of person you are. There's some people
Hmm.
that are a little more guarded and a little more private, and it's like
Hmm.
harder for them to kind of share. Um, I was working with this one family once where um it was a teenage child and she was just like stuck in the victim
Mm,
role and like just couldn't get out of it no matter how hard she tried, and the
hmm.
parents were like like stuck like not knowing how to support
Right.
her, and and so we really worked on like educating the parents on like how to be more supportive but also like directive and like kind of holding her accountable and
Hmm.
you know just different things like that. So it looks
Right.
different, I guess, for every family because some families the grandparents are the caregivers, and
Right. Right.
and there's that. Sometimes it's an adult child. Like I worked with an adult child and her
Mm,
mom. So I guess
interesting.
it depends on what the family
Right.
looks like.
It's really interesting that it like I never thought of it that it revolves mainly around the child, and I'm curious if there's times when like maybe like the son and the mom are like, we need to have dad like help like part of this as well. Does that kind of like conversation happen too?
Yeah, yeah, it does. I mean, 9 times out of 10, it's usually the mother and the kids.
Mm. Right.
But
Right.
I think, yeah, I mean, I think all scenarios have the propensity to happen.
Hmm.
But every family structure looks so different, especially in this modern day of age, like blended families and like broken homes and like,
Right.
again, grandparents raising children.
Hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes
Well,
it's even siblings. Like I had a session with two adult siblings, just,
mm,
because there was one of them was, struggling with an illness
right.
and
I wanna ask you about that because one of the things you mentioned just now is that it's usually the mother that kind of initiates everything. Why do you think that is?
I I think again, sweeping generalizations.
Mm-hmm.
I think that women have a tendency to be more open to the concept
Mm-hmm.
or the idea of therapy and processing and talking about feelings. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, part of that is because it's been implanted in us in society and like,
Mm,
the gender stereotypes and roles over the generations, which I think we're starting to break out of like gender norms anyway now. But
sure.
I mean, it's still passed on. And so I think just women as the nurturers are like, we need to fix this problem. Where
Mm,
I think systemically and, culturally, men are just like, no, just buck up, pull up your big
sure.
boy pants, pull up your big girl
Yeah.
pants and just get it fixed. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
don't need to pay somebody to talk about our problems.
Right.
And
Right.
again, sweeping generalizations. But listen, my husband married a therapist. Like I'm a therapist, and my husband is still like, I'm not crazy. I don't need to go to therapy. Like,
Right.
so, and it's like he married
Yeah.
someone that's a
Right,
therapist.
right.
So
It's really interesting that this is a conversation that we're having in today's world about men stepping up and becoming more familiar with the benefits and of therapy and things like that, because I was in the same boat. Like, I honestly did not think, like, whenever I thought of therapy, I honestly thought of, like, people having just mental breakdowns all the time and they just can't help themselves. So, like, it's just like they're going to be in a straitjacket if they don't get their life like, I really thought like this really, really ignorant mindset about therapy, which is why, like, to your point, like, I was like, I don't need therapy. Like, buck up, like wipe it off, brush it off, get up, keep going, kind of thing,
right.
because that's what was taught to me, playing sports, and all of, like, my coaches, were very, very adamant about that kind of mindset and ideology.
Hyper masculinity.
Mhm, mhm, absolutely, absolutely, and it took me, honestly, 30 plus years to really get myself out of that, at least in a way that I'm comfortable enough to be a lot more vulnerable and a lot more open to asking for help, because I went 30 plus years thinking like, this is on me. I need to figure this out on my own. you
Hmm.
know, it's it's
Yeah.
it's a cool feeling.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that and being so
Oh yeah.
vulnerable. I know most of your stuff is pretty open and vulnerable, so that's kind of on brand for you.
Oh, oh
But I
shucks.
appreciate you sharing that with me.
I thank you for those kind words.
Yeah.
So, that there was technically there was a couple of questions regarding family today, and there was one that came in, and I think we kind of alluded to this before, but with an answer that you gave, what are some common reasons why families decide to go to therapy together?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I mean, and like you said, I did allude to it. I think divorce is a big one.
Hmm.
Separation of parents is a big one. Um, Maybe some grief and loss stuff. I think
Mm,
problems, like really, I think a lot of it is like problems with the children.
mm,
Um,
mm,
and I can't speak for other practitioners because I know that there's a lot that will do like child therapy. Um, a lot of the times I find when there's an identified person as the child, it's the parents that really need
mm.
the support.
Interesting. Hmm.
Um, because our children are mirrors of ourselves.
Hmm.
And so if your child's behavior is triggering something with you, it's
Mm.
usually you.
Fair enough. Yeah, yeah.
So
Right.
I
And
think
you yourself are a parent. How
yeah.
mindful of that are you when, like, when you're parenting, your child?
I'm very mindful, and I'm gonna let this cat out of this room because, like you
That's
said, your cats drive you crazy. She's
fine.
doing that same thing. So hold on one second.
That's
Get out of
fine. Well, what she's referencing right now, you'll notice if you're watching this podcast, you'll notice that uh, uh, for the last couple of podcasts, I have been utilizing this background because in my actual living room where I record everything, my cats have decided that they are going to be the stars of the show from this point forward. And so they will just cause a ruckus in the background, and it is distracting not only to the viewer but to me with my ADHD, because once my attention's gone, it's gone. Like, that's it. My train of thought is just out of here. Like, so I'm like, I need to not be have to look at my screen and just see my cats just like, hey,
Yeah.
what you doing? What you doing over
Yeah.
there?
Mine was just cooing and pacing and being crazy. I'm
Yeah.
sure you saw the blinds moving. She was just, I was having a hard time focusing. So
Right,
here we are.
right. It's all
What
good.
was the question? Oh, me being a parent, and how
Mhm.
mindful. So, before I was a parent, I had this like conception of like what type of parent I was going to be,
Mm.
and the kind of behavior. Oh, my kid's not going to do that, and la 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 la, right?
Interesting, yeah. I think a lot of parents kind of feel that way sometimes before they become a parent.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I became a parent and I started learning more.
Hmm.
Um, and realized there's this thing called conscious parenting, gentle parenting,
Mm.
responsive or respectful parenting, all the same kind of concept. And I really, really subscribe to it. So anytime I'm working with like parents or families or anything, I let them know like I have a huge bias and this is like kind of my platform. But the concept is like you treat kids like human beings and not like,
Mm.
kids are meant to be seen and not heard type kind of
Mm.
mentality. And so I every behavior from a child like has a message and it's saying something. And so it's not about necessarily like controlling their behavior or changing their behavior, but rather it's about connecting with them to gain
Mm.
cooperation. Um, and so yeah, I very many times had to like recognize like why is this behavior triggering me?
Mm.
Why am I getting angry about this? And a lot of it is either A, I wasn't allowed to do it when I was a kid, or B, I felt like I was out of control of, of this little person, but they're their own person. And so so I'm very mindful of it and I do a lot of reading and listening and um yeah. Uh
Yeah.
I'm trying to
And
think of the name of the book and I'm blanking right now, but there's a really
how
good
dare
book.
you? You're supposed to have all of the
Raising Good
answers right now.
Humans.
What is it?
Raising Good Humans
Raising Good
is
Humans. Okay.
one of the books that I did. And they have like work for you as the parent to do.
Hmm.
So
Right, right. Yeah, and I'm glad that we're talking about this, and it's funny that how a bunch of questions came in surrounding this because another question that came in, and this is a perfect segue for it, is how does divorce affect my children?
yeah, it's going to affect your kids differently depending on the stage that your child is in, depending on the kind of divorce, the co-parenting. Is it one of those divorces where one of the parents just like dipped and
Mm,
disappeared? Is it like an amicable divorce, like where we're gonna co-parent and
hmm.
we have no problem like sharing the space? Like there's some parents that like will have like a house that they rent for the kids stay there, and the parents rotate.
It must be nice to have money like that.
Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm sure they,
Right.
whatever. But
No, I
like,
get
I
what you're
mean,
saying. Yeah.
so it's a constant for the kids.
Yeah.
So it just depends like what the
Interesting.
divorce looks like and then the stage of the children. Like
Hmm.
I was reading this article and it was talking about how you could have two children raised by the same parents, but experience their parents differently because their parents are at a different stage of their lives.
Ooh,
Hmm.
interesting.
Yeah, so like if you had a sibling that's like 2 years younger than you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like your parents may have a higher income when they had your sibling than when they had you, and so maybe they're more
Wow.
relaxed or whatever, and so they're at a different stage of their lives. Or let's say it's a 5 year difference, right? Like
Right,
think about
right.
it, you're very different from 25 to 30 years old. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're 25 with your first child versus 30 with your second child's going to get a very different version of you as a parent.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
It's really
like,
interesting you say that because I have a sister. My sister is 12 years older than me, and she quite often compares the way that my parents raised her versus the way that my parents raised me. She's always bringing up things like what that I would get away with, and she would be like, I didn't get away, you didn't let me get away with that when I was younger." Like, little things like that she would always throw out there. And it's funny, I never thought of it that way. That's really interesting.
yeah, your parents had 12 years to
Hmm.
mature
Hmm.
and get more either relaxed because they've just calmed down, a little bit in their
Hmm.
older age. Maybe they had, again, a different financial situation.
Right, right,
You get
right.
older and you realize life's too short to be such a stick in the mud sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what, I turned 36 last week, and
Congrats.
thank you. And I won't lie, there was a moment, I had a little lapse where I would say a couple days, get down. Sorry, my cats. They decided that they think I can't see them in here now, but I can see them over there, and they thought they were allowed to hop on the kitchen counter, which they're not allowed to do. They know better. Ooh, you got to witness
Naughty.
Cat Daddy just now. Now I forgot my question. Oh, 36. So I had a little lapse a couple days before my birthday where I'm like, I'm gonna be 40 in 4 years. And that scared the living mess out of me. And I was just like down. I was like, what am I doing with my life? Am I on the right track? I'm not married. I don't have children. Am I doing things okay? Like, why am I not a billionaire? Like, all of these things,
Yeah.
I was beating myself up about so much. And I found my way out of it, right? It was a day that I was like just really down, and I ended up like grounding myself and finding a way to look at things from a different perspective and just be thankful for the life that I have and the things that I have and things like that. So my question to you is this: if there is somebody out there that's listening or watching that has, maybe a big milestone coming up and they are having similar thoughts like that, what would you say to them?
Mm. I have a lot of clients that feel this way. Um, and a lot of it is because they're comparing their timeline with somebody else in their life.
Yep.
And I always say the comparison game is a really slippery slope.
Yes, it is.
And, there's always somebody going to be faster, richer, taller, stronger,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. And there's always going to be somebody weaker and poorer and slower and, whatever. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you get into that comparison game, you're giving yourself a really unfair advantage because
Yes.
you never know what someone else's struggle was like.
Yes.
You
Yes.
never know what someone else's, um, oh, what's it called? Privilege was like,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So you don't really know what their journey was like. And so you're comparing their highlight reel to
Mm.
your life. And only you know what your life is. You don't know what
Mm-hmm.
their life was. And so I
Mm-hmm.
always encourage and challenge my clients and my patients, whatever you want to call them, my people, to not play the comparison game with other people.
Yeah. And that's
Only
hard to
person,
do.
yeah,
That's
the
hard to
only
do.
person you can compare yourself with is who you were yesterday.
Mm. Yes.
That's it.
Right, right. And that's really hard to do, especially in the age of just like digital media where a lot of people put, their what they want people to know about their life out there, and like it even in my case, people come up to me or people come up to me or they'll message me and they'll say, I don't get it. How are you always smiling? How are you always in a good mood? How are you all? And I'm like, I'm not. You are
No.
seeing curated content. Like, I'm a genuine person. Everything you see from me on social media and on my podcast, everything is genuine, but it's very curated. The stuff that I put out there, like I am vulnerable, but anything I put out there are things that I've processed,
Right.
things that I've like really thought through personally. And then now I'm at a point that I feel comfortable enough to talk about this publicly, right? But there's a lot of things that I'm dealing with that like man, like I can't talk about it publicly now because like I don't even know what the heck is happening. Like I'm still trying to figure it out,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
there's plenty of times when, I cry. There's plenty of times when I sit back and I'm just like, what the hell am I doing? And or I'll beat myself up, or my ADHD will get the best of me, or my depression will get the best of me, my anxiety will get the best of me. Like those days happen more often than what people realize. I don't
Yeah.
film it, you know but it does happen. So that's a very good point that you bring up in regards to comparison, because I get those messages all the time. How are you always smiling? I'm like, ooh, I should put a camera in
I'm
my
not
house.
always. Not always.
Yeah, like I should put
Just
like
on Instagram.
exactly, like I said, everything I put out there is genuine. Like if you see me smiling, like it's a genuine smile. But
Hmm.
man, there are times when I'm just like a hot mess.
Right. You're just not filming it. It's just not
Yeah,
being, yeah,
yeah, yeah, that's just
I
me.
get it.
um So here's speaking of, there's another interesting question. Is there a cure to depression? Will I just wake up one day and everything will be okay?
I don't think there's like a cure. There's no
Hmm.
like, remember
There's no like
Robin
syrup, like
Williams?
a cough syrup or something. There's no
Do you
like
remember? Do
take a
you
Benadryl.
remember Robin Williams stand up? Fuck it all.
Mm. Yes. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
it
Yeah.
doesn't
Hmm.
exist.
Rest in peace, Robin Williams. Oh man,
I
he's
know.
great.
Yeah, he
Hmm.
was epic. But
Yeah.
there's no, I mean, there's not a thing. And so there's some people who have like depression where it's like
Hmm.
this chemical thing with serotonin and reuptake inhibitors and
Mm.
you know all that kind of stuff. And then there's some people who have like depressive symptoms and it's not
Mm.
a chemical thing and it's a mindset thing and it's a uh, input consumption thing and yeah, there's not like a cure, there's just a
Hmm.
way to manage the symptoms and the
Right.
symptomology.
Right.
And some people, like the people who have, the neurotransmitter thing going on, they need medication, they need
Mm.
antidepressants, they need SSRIs, they need that kind of stuff. And some people who have the cognitive distortions and who have the thinking problem, they need to challenge their cognitive thought and their cognitive
Hmm.
processing and their response, and they need to guard their input and their consumption. And when I say guard your input and consumption, I honestly, like full-heartedly believe that you are what you consume, whether it be
Mm.
food, media, music,
Hmm.
um, books, all that kind of stuff. If you sit and watch trash TV all day
Mm.
long, you are going to feel like trash TV. Whether
Interesting.
it's like Bad Girls Club, like whatever, it's gonna speak to you, it's gonna seep
Yeah.
inside your brain, and it's gonna brainwash you. And so what are you going to
Interesting.
wash your brain with? Are you going to wash your
Hmm.
brain with like these podcasters and like
Hmm.
self-helpful
Hey, what do you have against
books?
podcasters?
No,
Why I oughta?
no, I'm saying it is a good thing.
No, I
Like you
get it.
want
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
listen to good things and
Hmm.
wash your brain of good stuff and things that are
Hmm.
uplifting and positive. There's enough garbage on TV that will
Facts.
depress you. Like straight up, you
Facts.
just watch any news station for a
Oh, I
good
can't watch the news.
hour and you're
It's
like
hard for me to
crying.
watch the
It's
news.
terrible.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult for me to watch the news, and I stay up to date on everything because I do feel that's important. But man, I do not watch the news in like long form, extended amounts of time. Like I'll get the highlights and I'll read up on the things that are like important, but like the onslaught of constant news, absolutely not. Ain't
Yeah.
no way. Ain't no
No,
way.
no. We have no cable in this house.
Oh, nice.
No cable.
Hmm.
Not allowed.
I don't have cable either. Yeah. Hmm.
Not allowed. My
Hmm.
husband's a news junkie, but he'll watch it on his phone.
Right.
I
Right.
guard my input.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to get like I even took things like off my phone. I used to have like CNN alerts like sent to my phone. I even just got rid of that because it was just a constant like every hour there was
Breaking
just
news.
something new. It's like, am I gonna die from this or am I gonna die from this? Like which one?
And I think we touched on this our first
Yeah.
podcast ever together is like
Hmm.
how it's an alarmist kind of media now
Yes.
too. So
Hmm.
it's like constantly creating
Hmm.
anxiety and it's
Yep.
yeah, it's a mess.
Yep.
It's not
Yep.
Walter Cronkite anymore. Just this is the news
Sure.
and this is what happened and this is what's
Yes.
going on and that's it. Like it's
Yes. Yes. Oh boy. Well, this is actually a perfect segue for it. I think. Does smoking weed help with my depression and anxiety?
ooh. So I am not actually certified to like
Hmm.
prescribe any of the medicinal marijuana.
Hmm.
I do personally believe under a doctor's care, you could
Hmm.
potentially find a strain that can help with anxiety. I don't know
Hmm.
about depression because I
Hmm.
feel like weed is a depressant.
Hmm.
But it could help with anxiety. I mean, I've seen it happen, but I think
Hmm.
again, you can't with any medication, in my opinion, you can't just take the medication and not do the therapy,
Facts.
right? So
Hmm.
if kind of like you're not going to go for chemo and not see the oncologist.
Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
So if you're taking medication for mental health, I highly, highly, highly recommend going to a psychotherapist. Back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, your prescriber was your therapist, but managed care took care of that.
Back in the day. Back
My
in my
grandfather was
day.
my grandfather was a psychiatrist in Miami,
Nice.
and he did psychotherapy with all of his
Yeah,
patients
yeah.
and prescribed them their medication, which
One-stop shop for everything.
but that makes sense. Like the person you're
Right,
talking to also,
right, right.
so anyway, so here we are.
Um, I love this question. This is this might be one of my favorite like top 5 questions of all time that I've gotten. Why should I go to therapy when I can just talk to my friends and family?
Oh, cool. I like this one. So you, depending on what you're talking about, you don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like your friends and family are going to tell you like what you want to hear or
Mm,
whatever. They have a biased opinion, right? Like they have a
mm-hmm.
biased thing. So there's that. They're not going to necessarily like give you like solid feedback. If your friends and family tell you something that's hard for you to hear, that could then also really strain the relationships because
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what a therapist does. They hold up the mirror, they give you feedback, they kind of tell you
Yes.
things that are hard to hear about yourself. Um, and if you have like a real diagnosis, like a major depressive disorder or panic disorder
Mm-hmm.
or dissociative identity disorder or whatever, like you have something real like really going on. And I don't mean to say that some of the other stuff that you would go to therapy aren't like real problems.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Um, but I think there's like a spectrum, of your low functioning and then all the way to I want to talk about how my boss sucks, so
Mm,
there's some easier kind of higher functioning problems. So that's
right.
what I'm talking about. And you can talk to your friends and family about how my boss sucks, but a therapist is going to help give you insight of your mindset and how you can
Mm-hmm.
shift your experience with your sucky boss.
Right, right, right. And
Your friends and family are going to be like, yeah, he sucks.
if my bosses are listening right now, I love you. You are great. You are fantastic. And I thank you for everything that you have ever done for me. Always. Love, love always, Kai.
Yeah, there's some great bosses out there.
There
I
are
just
great
use that one.
bosses. And
Yeah.
I am fortunate enough to lead a team of I would say like 15 people. And I try to be like that empathetic, like understanding, but I'll also push you type of like leader,
Hmm.
because I know that's how I work well. And I try to, apply that to the people that I like oversee, but I also like to adapt to what works best for each individual person as well. So I try to be like the cool, like understanding, but I'll also push you to be better kind of boss, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it
Mhm.
does.
So if any of my team is listening to this today, you are amazing. Now get to work. You're not supposed to be listening to this right now. You're supposed to be answering my emails. Dang it. um, so this last question here, and I wanted to save this one for last because I think it's a really interesting topic. I didn't realize how in depth this topic was until earlier this week. So let me give some background as to why this question. I'm going to ask you this question, and I want to get your insight here. I put up a video earlier this week that was talking about self-diagnosis, and in the video, pretty much all I was saying was there's nothing wrong with self-diagnosis. Just be careful because if you are watching a bunch of like YouTubers or TikTokers or Instagrammers talking about like ADHD or something like that, be careful, watching those things and then like self-diagnosing and then trying to treat everything on your own, right? I'm not saying that it's not possible, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it. Just be careful. And
Hmm.
so I put this video up, and I think it got taken the wrong way. And some of the responses that I was getting are things like, well, not everybody can afford therapy. And,
Oh man.
like, not like you're privileged because, like just a bunch of stuff that like, all I was trying to say is just be careful. I wasn't trying to say that you can't self-diagnose because like, and because my concern is this. and you can correct me if I'm wrong with my mindset here, because like you would know better than anybody, but my concern is this. If I think that I have ADHD because I saw a Instagram reel or a TikTok that described some symptoms, right? That might be legit symptoms, and those are things that I experience, right? And I self-diagnose my ADHD, and I start treating myself for ADHD. When in actuality, that symptom that I think was attributed to ADHD is actually attributed to something else, possibly depression, anxiety. It could be anything, because a lot of these go hand in hand, right? A lot of
Mhm.
these like intermix with each other. My fear is that you could potentially make things worse by either like not um focusing on the right thing, or not focusing on things at all, like kind of pushing yourself in the wrong direction. That's my biggest fear. What are your thoughts on self-diagnosis?
Well, you just described differential diagnosis.
Mm,
So,
there we
okay, so
go.
my thoughts on, yeah, so my thoughts on self-diagnosis.
Hmm.
So speaking from experience
Hmm.
going through graduate school, and you go through the DSM, the Diagnostic
Hmm.
Statistical Manual, and that's where all of the diagnoses are listed.
Hmm.
Um, Everyone in my class, when we were talking about a diagnosis, I have that, I have that, I have that. So if you're again, here we go with the consumption. If you are
Mm,
watching and having something input and you're getting a snapshot of a diagnosis, you're going to think you have it. Because
mm,
let's face it, all of us encompass at least a piece of all of of any of the diagnoses,
yes,
right?
right.
Because we're human beings, we're this complex thing. So I personally have a really, really, really hard time with people self-diagnosing.
Hmm.
Um, because do you know what the differential diagnoses are? Do you know what it presents as? I mean, yeah, I guess you could read it in the DSM if you really, really, really looked. Um, so, okay, fine. Let's just say you read it in the DSM, you went through and you're like, nope, I definitely have all these criteria. Fine. Then the second piece of what you were talking about is now this self help or self treatment,
Right.
which I think depending on your diagnosis that you gave yourself, I I err on the side of caution. I just wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Hmm.
You know, I think again, maybe with like again, my boss sucks. Okay, fine. I can read a couple of books. I can like, do some things to like change my thoughts and change my perspective. And okay, cool. Maybe
Hmm.
you can do some of that stuff. But when it comes to like ADHD or panic attack or mood disorders or a personality disorder, like,
Hmm.
hmm
Be
or
careful. Right.
addiction, like,
Yeah.
oh man,
Yeah.
addiction. No, honey, your brain got you here. You need a
Absolutely.
therapist, and you need another addict who already went through the
Mm,
steps, like
hmm.
hands down.
Yeah, and something that comes to mind is something that you said earlier in regards to a biased opinion, right? So like in regards to like with your friends, like when we were talking about whether you should, like, why go to therapy when you can talk to your family and friends, and something to keep in mind is, there is a light bias there amongst family and friends, and even, and correct me if I'm wrong, even amongst yourself, there is a bias there that could be a potential limitation to getting the help that you really need, like
Mhm.
ultimately need to get better.
Yeah.
So it's just really tough, because I hear people, like I hear you when you say, like, like a lot of the reasons why people have difficulty getting therapy, whether it's affordability or scheduling, whatever it may be. But like I truly do believe that there's just options out there for people. Like I feel like if you make the time and effort, like truly, I really do think that you can find a way, you know
100%.
and I
Like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to
yeah.
offend anybody, but that
Hmm.
person who sent that comment probably did it from their iPhone.
Mm. Hmm.
If you can afford an iPhone, you can
Mm.
afford therapy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Says the Droid user who's had her
Yeah.
phone
Oh,
for
come
5
on
years.
now. Come over to the Apple family.
I can't afford it.
It is expensive. It
Yes.
is expensive.
Yeah. No, I've had the same phone for like 5 years.
Oh man. Yeah, I just truly do believe that like when it comes to your mental health, like it's like I would say treat it just like your physical health. Like if I know my arm is hurting and it could be something really bad, potentially like it might be broken. I feel like it might be broken. I just don't feel comfortable enough to try to not only diagnose but
Make your
fix
own
it.
stint
Right,
or
my
whatever it's
right,
called.
right, exactly.
Make your
Or make a cast,
yeah.
like I don't have that expertise. Not saying that like I couldn't, I guess, but like there's reasons why, doctors go about things like, and then maybe, you broke it and yeah, maybe the bone's broken, but when you get an x-ray, you come to find out there's something else that's happening too, or maybe there's nerve damage. Like there's like
Yeah.
so much that goes into that. And when we think about it from a physical health perspective, we're like, oh yeah, I would never, I broke my leg, I would never, blah blah blah. And I'm like, well, I wish that we viewed it the same way from a mental standpoint. I really
Hmm.
do. Am I crazy for thinking that way?
No, I feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
feel the same way. Sorry, I've heard some weird noise. Oh, my side.
It's all good. No, yeah, that took me by surprise this week. I was like, I think some people are taking it the wrong way. So if you're one of those people that, that watched the video and took it that way, please know that like I have no problem with self-diagnosis. My whole thing is just be careful. And I just want to make sure you're getting information from credible resources. Because I can tell you, there's a lot of people out on TikTok right now and on Instagram and on YouTube that are just spewing some stuff. They're spewing, and like I'm just like, "Ooh, you sure about
Yeah. Yeah.
that?"
Yeah.
So I try to be careful, but
I agree. It's error in the
yeah,
side of caution.
yeah, yeah,
You're not going to
absolutely.
be your own dentist. You're not going to be your doctor. You're not going to be
Hmm.
like mm,
Hmm.
being your own
Yeah,
therapist.
agreed. Chelsea, thank you. You're amazing. Like I we're going to do it again. Like it's going to happen. I believe you scheduled this one, I think maybe like 5 minutes after we finished our last one. So you got to do the same thing. My schedules are always updated,
I will. Yeah, and whenever you're ready to have that talk about cancel culture, my friend is down
Ooh,
for a threesome.
let's let's figure that out. Can we do that one next?
Yeah.
Let's schedule that.
I'll be
Let's
in
schedule that.
Chicago with her in August, so I can put that
Okay.
on the
Yeah,
that on the calendar.
let's shoot for August. Let's do it. I'll have my thoughts in a I'm so afraid to talk about it. I'm not gonna lie. That's my biggest fear because I have thoughts and I'm just so afraid to put it out there sometimes because I don't want people to take it the wrong way. But like some aspects of cancel culture just bother me.
Do you have some people pleasing traits?
Oh, do I? Do I? My middle name is people pleaser.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm just really it really I have thoughts and yeah, maybe I'll save it for August. Stay tuned.
yeah, yeah. Stay tuned. Cliffhanger.
Yes. With that said, thank you so much, Chelsea, for taking the time out of your day to sit and chat with me. If you want more information about Chelsea and her practice, Healthy Minds and More, I will include the link to her website in the description of this podcast, healthymindsandmore.com. And if you want even more exclusive content about my mental health and my life and all of that jazz, then you can subscribe to my Patreon, the Vibe with Kai Patreon, only $1 a month, $12 a year. You can even get a 7-day free trial. That's a thing I didn't even know you could do. If you go right now, you can get a 7-day free trial. I didn't even know that was a thing, but it's a
That's what's
thing.
up.
It's
That's what's
amazing.
up.
Yes. So go do that.
Don't forget to kick anxiety to the curb either.
Yes. Oh, yes. Wait, I have that information. Hold on. Let's scroll up. I'm going to read this verbatim. Why is my mouse being weird? Okay, here we go. Chelsea is also the author of Kick Anxiety to the Curb, a series of mental health workbooks that are now available on Amazon.
Kick it.
How's that? How's that? Was
That's
that
nice.
great or was that amazing?
That's great. That's great
I,
and amazing. It was amazing.
it was amazing. I will include links to that kick anxiety to the curb in the description of this podcast as well. With that said, friends, thank you so much for watching, for listening. As always, much love, good vibes, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.